You asked for this training. I'll tell you that we do a lot of conversations with our clients. We do a lot of conversations with our community. We have about 20,000 followers online, which is really quite amazing given the context of life, and life has been lifing. And I took time off after my car accident and, had back surgery and knee surgery and then spine surgery. I was offline for a while. So I'm really thrilled that we still have this deeply connected community. And we talk and we ask, a lot of what I'm going to share with you today about marketing and the activities you can take. A lot of this stuff is around the super easy stuff that you already know how to do as a woman. Like it's just natural for us. It's not the bells and whistles. And listen, we've done it all. At least I don't say everything because I've been in business for 35 years. This is my ninth company in the process of opening my 10th company right now. I've been through a lot of seasons since I was in my early 20s. Now almost 60 years old. So for those of you that said, "Hey, I want to come and get your nuggets," thank you. Because one of the things that I'm really, really wanting you to do, whether you do it here in this community or somewhere else, is make sure you raise your hand and ask for help. When you ask for stuff, that's when the universe can rise up to meet you. If you don't ask, it's not going to happen, right? I mean, it's just really one of my early mentors, Fabienne Fredrickson. I was watching her money training recently, and she was talking about how you're like, she calls it like the universal diner. Can you imagine going to a restaurant and asking the waitress, I like this on the menu, 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 I like this on the menu. And then the waitress is going to be like, okay, either you have a really big appetite, or we got a problem, right? So you've got to learn how to ask for what you want. All right. So this is not about you learning something new. What I want to share with you again is that this is about, if anybody, can you raise your hand if you came through the upcycling training? Who went through upcycle with me in the fall? So one of the things that I want to share with you is that because we are a community of mature, spiritually connected women, we often have everything we need, and yet we forget. Right? I mean, Amanda, you're shaking your head. Of course, this is what it is. We forget. And so, I have all these stories to tell you about kind of wild metaphysical woo-woo things that have happened in my life. But this is one to tell you that you have what you need already. You really have what you need. So today, what I want to talk to you is about you being a new version of you. And I'm going to talk to you about the marketing pieces that we work with our clients on that are the organic, either no cost or low cost things that really convert clients, because it's all about relationships, right? But the biggest piece I see holding them back, we know the statistics, maybe you do, maybe you don't, that 98% of women-owned businesses never hit $1 million in revenue. And that gets studied every year by American Express. You can look it up online. And I think it's a fascinating thing because what's going on there? It's not that we're not as smart. It's not that we're not as capable. It's that we're not, in my opinion, doing the right activities. And somehow we don't see ourselves, right? So we had a lot of conversation in, I don't know how to move you guys, but if you can see the slide about, um, there we go. I can put you up here, this beautiful butterfly slide. We had a lot of conversation at the recent Limitless Women event, which was our ninth annual Legacy and Leadership Conference. The 10th one, which is going to be a big deal, is coming up in April in Austin, Texas. So just know that, mark your calendars. Let me know if you're interested. Before that, we have our Flow Retreat in November in San Antonio. So in the conference, what we talked about is, again, our identity shift. Not as our roles shift, our identity often feels like it shifts, but it doesn't. It's really up to us to stay on top and really remember who we are. So what I want to do today is go from macro to micro. And the reason why this picture is here is, who in here is really familiar with, anybody know about aspen trees? Because I lived in Colorado, I got a little more knowledge about aspen trees than I had before. So aspen trees are kind of a cool thing because it's one, when you see this picture and it looks like a whole bunch of yellow trees, they're actually sharing one root system. It's kind of a cool gig, right? So I'm going to share with you kind of the macro ideas. What are the things you need to know at a high level to help you shift your identity into the leader that you're here to be? And I'm also going to share with you some micro steps. Good? And if you have questions, you have comments, you have things you want to know, then put them in the chat. I invite you right now, if you're doing other things, to stop doing other things and give yourself permission to really make this a priority. Because those of you that are serious about healing your money consciousness have an opportunity to make a big shift today. It doesn't take long, but it does take your commitment. It's almost like going to a doctor and asking them to heal you. It's not going to happen if you don't meet them halfway. With me, same thing with all of your businesses and all of your clients. You have to have partnership to make it work. So, does anybody feel comfortable? I can't see the chat now because I'm sharing my screen and I don't know how to make that happen, Leanne. So, um, if you'd like to write down for yourself, what, how are you feeling about money? How is it feeling for you right now? Just write it down for yourself. Maybe take a break here. Just take a moment and pause. Think about that. How are you feeling about money? And I want to say that, in this conversation, there's nothing wrong with how you're feeling. How you're feeling is how you're feeling. And you deserve that. And it's correct and it's appropriate and it's what you're feeling. So here's the deal. It may not be true. It may not be true. You might be feeling a limiting belief about money. You might be feeling that there's not enough money. You might be feeling that you're not good enough for money, right? Oh, good. I got some chats. Anybody have a chat here? Okay. Elena says she's moving toward abundance and grateful and excited about tomorrow. Maybe in the chat, if anybody wants to share how you're feeling about money, because I don't want to unmute and then we get into a conversation. While you're thinking about that, I will tell you that, my feeling about money was that there was never enough and that no matter how hard I worked, there would still be not enough. And then if I did get money, I couldn't be trusted with it, right? That I wasn't trustworthy. A lot of messages in my childhood that I wasn't a good person, just heard a lot of stuff. So I think this idea about it being stressful, about it being elusive, I think we're all, kind of in a similar situation. And the up and down piece, Dawn, this is what we call the financial roller coaster. You're not alone in that, right? We'll have a great month and then something happens. And it's like, where does it go? What happened, right? That's what we want to talk about today, because what I know is underlying in the macro is this piece of I can give you, here's the three things. If anybody wants the three things from the macro, the big three are your mindset. And we're working on that a little bit here today. The second one is your marketing activities in your business. And I'm going to tell you, when I first started doing an internet-based business, I had never been online, right? I mean, you have to think, we had businesses back in the day, everything was brick and mortar. We paid a lot of money for rent. And that was our big marketing budget, or we would pay a local magazine. But we didn't know what we know today. I can tell you, fast forward 12 years later, and $200,000 in different programs from mentorship and branding stuff. I know a lot about marketing. And it doesn't have to be complicated. And it doesn't have to be scary. But here's what happens. My sweet friends who are not generating revenue are doing the right activities in the wrong order, or they're doing the wrong thing. They're out here trying to get, like, let me get that $97 thing. Let me get that $197 thing. Let me get that other little thing over here. And then they don't get traction. You need a system. You need consistency, right? And we can help you with that. But so the macro level of what we're going to talk today about your mindset, about your marketing. I'm going to give you some really great things you can do right now to start shifting your energy and start bringing some cash flow. And then the third thing we're talking about is accountability. And here's the deal, my loves. If we could do it by ourselves, we would. We're hard workers. We're smart women, regardless of what anybody told us in the past. But if we could figure this out all on our own, we would have figured it out. Okay? Any place we haven't figured it out, we've got to ask for help. We can't be too cool for school. With me? And some of you are really good at asking for help, and some of you have had to learn how to ask for help, which is probably why I was thinking of you this morning, Angela, right? Because you're Canadian and you're sweet and you're humble and you don't want to offend anybody and you don't want to bother me. And you're like, hey, I'm your partner. I'm here for that. That's what I am. I want you to have healthy relationships everywhere. I'm going to tell you this other piece that's in the macro, kind of a bonus one that's not really on my training for you today, but I'll tell you this piece is that there's a saying of how you do anything is how you do everything. And I find, Amanda, you're shaking your head with me on this, and I find there's a lot of truth in that. So when I talk today about your relationship with money, I want to encourage you to consider that this is just a new thing for you if it hasn't been healthy. Just like if you've had unhealthy relationships, and I know many of you personally, like me, you've been through some hard times, you've been through abusive environments, you've been through some tough stuff, and you've come through to the other side. In the same way you did that in your relationships, you can do that with your relationship with money. Anybody down for that? Say yes in the chat, please. Yep. Thank you for the thumbs up. I appreciate it. Okay. So let's move on. Ah, maybe, maybe. Let's see if it'll let me move on. Come on, Dolly. Well, technical difficulties. Goodness sakes. Sorry about that. There should be one of these little things that just goes forward. Oh, okay. Hot dog. What you want instead, write it down. You just wrote down how you're feeling about money right now. If you're feeling like money is fantastic and easy, hallelujah, congratulations. I'm glad you won the money game. Good for you. If you're not feeling like that, take a minute right now and write down what you would like. My friends, please don't skip this. There's so much power in your writing. Just give yourself a minute. We have time, I promise you. Okay. Write down what you want instead. What does that look like? What does that feel like? Right now, we're working with July, August, and September as our third quarter initiative, right? So, and I'm just going to talk while you guys write. Is that okay? I'm not going to be distracting you. Everybody all right with that? Shake your head if it's okay. Thank you. So, one of the things we do in Legacy Leaders and in business school is we work in quarterly initiatives. And it's really important because trying to eat the elephant and do your whole business development in like a month is so unrealistic, especially if you have a strong legacy focused business and you want to have an exit strategy. You've got to have systems, and systems take a little bit of time to hone, just like this. What we're doing right now is a system. You're watching us in real time create a system that you'll see if everything goes well, because it's actually in the process. You saw the opt-in page, that took a little while. You got some email campaign, that took a little while. We're doing this testing, right? That takes a little while. It's the same thing in your business. You're going to choose which initiatives. So when you look at, you would like ease and grace. You'd like money easily flowing to you from different sources. I love that, Dawn. This is the deal. What are those different sources and where do you have a structure of support to make that happen for you? I find personally, if you don't have a structure of support, it's really hard to implement because life gets in the way. Not one of us on this call doesn't have life getting in the way. It just happens. Okay? So what we want instead is important for us to get going. And I'm here to tell you that I think you already have it. I think we had a conversation this week in one of our classes about what if your next clients were actually already here and they were just waiting for you. Can you imagine? How cool is that? It's like your health that wants to happen if you'll just give it some love and attention. It's the same thing with your money. There's no lack of cash on the planet. So there's something going on for you today that we want to pay attention to that might have you open your mind up to diving in and seeing your experience with money be a little bit different. Is everybody good for that? Yeah. And I can't see what you're writing down. So, I mean, I'm seeing what you write in the chat, but I can't see what you're writing on a piece of paper. So I'm only thinking that you came to a class on making money because you're not making the money you want to make. Can everybody give me a yes or no? Okay, good. Because otherwise, we have different classes. If you want to talk about team building, you want to talk about scaling, you want to talk about selling your company, I got all kinds of classes for you. But this one is about making more money. Are we ready to go? All right, cool. So let's go. So we went to the macro, which is your mindset, your marketing, your accountability. That's the macro, right? Now we're going to get into the good stuff, the little micro stuff. First of all, How precious is this picture? Can you stand it? So darn cute. So you're not broken. This little person doesn't feel like there's anything wrong with them. And I was talking to one of our students in business school yesterday, I think, and she's babysitting her niece, and her niece is she's not a mama herself, but she's babysitting her niece, and her niece is 8 months old. No, that's wrong. That was 10 months old. So she's 10 months old, and she's learning to walk. And Ashley was saying to me, she's like, "My back is killing me because I'm holding her hands and she's walking and walking and walking and walking. All she wants to do is walk." Right? She's like, she's not apologizing. She's like, as soon as you put her down, she's like, "No, pick me up." Like, she's just so clear, right? Somehow we got the message that we're broken. And I'll tell you, it's interesting to me the word broke as a description of when cash is working, right, Dawn? I mean, that's the whole thing. Like, why is that the description? Why is that the word we use? It's kind of peculiar, right? So if we start with we're not broke and we're not broken, then what's going on? What's happening with us, right? Where are we with this relationship with money? Here's the deal. Your brain has been conditioned, your brain and my brain. When I say you, I'm not talking at you, I'm talking with you. All right. We all heard, and if you responded to this class because you got an email from me that said, "Who in here heard money doesn't grow on trees? Who in here didn't hear you got to work hard if you want to make a lot of money?" Let me tell you, we've heard it, right? Everything that our brain has been conditioned for is actually, the result of people around us who were doing the best they could at the time. What we get to decide today is, are we going to keep bringing that forward? Or was what we heard something that was meant to be of service to us at the time and may no longer be true? Do you remember when I said what feels real for you is real? Your feelings are valid. They deserve your attention. Otherwise, they'll keep popping up in strange, sabotaging ways. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah? Okay. So you got to pay attention to that. But what you got to do now is choose what's happening and what can I recognize as the conditioning. I imagine, Dawn, in your work, there's a lot of this as well, right? You can see the conditioning that happened in the past. And what are we choosing to move to the future with? And somebody said here, my former husband often said we were broke, right? DeLacy. Yeah, I love that, darling. I love that you don't let your young humans say we're broke, because they're not. They're not broke. Broke is a term of broken. It's not okay. It's not true. All right. What we are is conditioned, and what we are is a function of our environment. It's one of the reasons why when working together, I'm really on you about cleaning things up, not because I want to be militant about your house. Your house is your house, but I got to tell you, your body, your mind, your spirit deserves a clean, clear space for creation. And I want you to be able to be creating whatever you want here. Okay. So some messages, some people believe they're multi-generational, tell you there's not enough. Most of the messages that I heard was that I was not enough. And guess what happens when you hear that you're not enough? The whole world rises up to meet you. Everything I'm going to talk to you about in this micro stuff is around what's happening in your belief system. And you don't have to believe what I believe, but I'm going to tell you, why wouldn't you believe in somebody who's done it before and been successful? Just like you have certain things that you've done before that I haven't done that you're successful at. I got to tell you, I'm very good at making money, but I had to learn it. Didn't happen coming out of the hopper. And it certainly didn't happen growing up in the environment I grew up in, right? It's the same for you. You guys have been told there's not enough. There's not enough money. There's not enough time. There's not enough this. There's not enough that. If we just work harder, I mean, how many people in here thought if you went to college and you were the first person in your family to go to college, you might heal the cycle of poverty in your family? Anybody besides me? Right. And I went to community college, and then I went to state school, and I took student loans, and I did the do. And then I got to law school, and I was like, oops, I don't think this is where I'm supposed to be. I have a lot of women in my circle of my close friends in our community who have they're really highly educated, and they're still struggling with this one. Okay. So that will tell us that it's not about the education. right? With me? So here's the deal. What's ever programmed in your brain, you will keep it going by who you spend time with. Now, when you want to create a new neural path, and I'm going to use myself as an example. When I wanted to create a new neural path of instead of I had to create my finances, I wanted to live in a land of overflowing abundance. It takes time for your brain to feel that and to get a new highway. Neural paths are like highways. So the things that you've heard and the things you've been told and the things you've said, this is why I stop. Those of you that are working with me in partnership know when I invite you to pause and think about what you just said, what happens? Why am I doing that? Yes, because you want to reframe it, you want to change it, you want to create a new highway in your brain. So, what I want you to look at is what did you write down for what you want it to be instead of how it is with your relationship with money? Go back and look at that. And then I want to ask you, who do you hang out with that lives that loves you, and that wants to see you experience that fully? Who's in your world? You know, when I first created my circle of life work, and I did that with the distinctions around crafting a life that I wanted to have, right? The distinction around relationship. I didn't have a good example of a healthy relationship outside of that with my little children. They were little. And it was the only place I actually felt safe. And here's another thing for a lot of you. You're not allowing revenue to come in because you don't feel confident, you don't feel competent, and often you don't feel safe. But when you start generating consistent recurring revenue and you get off of that financial roller coaster, Dawn, you start to blossom, right? You start to strengthen a new habit. And that's why we're doing what we're doing over the summer with the third quarter of July, August, and September, and really working on how do we repattern our brain? How do we create a new habit? Now, I've been doing a lot of research, and so some people say 18 days, some people say 255 days. There's all these weird numbers. The best I found consistently is somewhere between 57 and 66 days to create a new habit. So if you've been in the habit of talking negatively about your money and talking negatively about yourself, you want to be around other people that are going to help you anchor and strengthen this new habit. Does it make sense what I'm saying? 100%? Good, good. Maybe 90%, I don't know. But I'll tell you, this is the game changer. I was talking to somebody, I was talking to my son about this the other day, actually, who's in medical school. And one of the things that I said to him is like, when I was in bed, I was in bed for 2 months after my back surgery. He would come in my room every day and say, "You look so much better today than you did yesterday." And let me tell you something, I did not look that good. I mean, like I gained 20 pounds. I couldn't move. My skin was all blotchy. I felt terrible. But he just kept coming in and saying, "Today you look better than you did yesterday." And I know that I healed because of that, right? And I want you guys to have this experience. If you don't have that in an intimate partnership, where are you finding it in community? One of the things that's very sexy about the Limitless Women community is we are a community of givers. And for those of you that have been to a live event with us, you understand it's not like any place else. Everybody there is so excited to see you grow. That's a special place. If you don't have something like that, talk to me because I want you to know we're here for you. All right. So this is about you and what's going on with you. I just want to share a little bit about my own story and share this sweet experience with Lynn Twist. Lynn Twist is the author of a book called The Soul of Money. If you haven't read this book, I would encourage you, please order it right away. One of the things we're working on this summer is our reading list, right? What are the books that we need to read that will really help us repattern our consciousness, create an overflowing abundance in our experience and heal our relationship with money. So if you're interested in her book, please look it up online. I think she actually has a new book, but this is the one I want you to read, The Soul of Money. Okay. It's really a fantastic thing. So I met her, Lynn Twist, Lynnetwist, Lynn Twist. Okay. Thank you, Leon. Appreciate that. So the deal with this is that I met her. There was a person from her nonprofit, Sarah Vetter, who's one of her partners, who was asking if I, who heard me at an event speaking and asked if I would come and help their organization with bringing the work of Pachamama Alliance to businesses. So that's a very short version of a very long story, but here's what I want to share with you. When you meet people who are kind of like your idols and your role models, often they are a version of you just a little further along, right? And we often can't see ourselves and we put people on a pedestal. And what I can tell you is that the more we do that, the more we give our power away, the longer it takes for us to get to where we want to go. This who you spend time with, the environment you're in is everything. The people you spend time with, it's everything. All right. So let's go to the second distinction. We got this thing about your brain, right? You're perfect. You're not broken. You're not broke. You're just programmed. And you can change your programming, but you need some help. You can't do it on your own. Okay. It takes practice and it takes discipline. I think about athletes. I think about people that are super successful in the world. They're doing a certain set of behaviors on a regular basis. Nobody gets up and says, "Hey, I'm gonna go run a marathon." They get up and they train. They get up and they eat a certain way. They get up and they focus. With me? All right. So if you are here, chances are you are one of my friends who has a much bigger vision than a lot of people around you, you know? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with the other people around you. They have a different calling on their lives. I believe God's calling is for each of us individual, and we are made very uniquely. You're here in the Limitless Women conversation because you've been called for something bigger. And the whole purpose for us around getting our revenue handled is so we can get out of our own way. Thank you, Jennifer Huff, and get our stuff together to be in service of others. At this point today, while we are talking, there's still over 3 billion people on the planet who do not have access to healthcare, to running water, to education. They're living on like $3 a day. I know we can't get our head around that because we couldn't figure that out in the United States or Canada, right? I think everybody here is from the US and Canada right now. I don't know, Dr. Nadia or Diane, I don't know where you guys are from. You can put it in the chat if you want to share with us where you're from. But here's the deal. Today, you have access to a computer. Today, you have access to the internet. Today, you have access to resources, which means you have, thanks, Dr. Nadia, you have an opportunity. And we've got to get you out of the patterning of not enough so that you can join me and the other Limitless ladies in using our businesses as vehicles for change. Is everybody down for that? It's really important that I can tell you that a lot of the work that I do with private clients is this healing of old conditioning. This is why I have Kathy's story in here. When I met Kathy, she had been in business for 2 decades, and she was going through a painful divorce. And if you want to go to the Limitless Women website, you can do lots of testimonials and stories from people of what they're doing. I changed her name and changed her picture just because I want to be respectful for her privacy. But I can tell you this is the place that I think a lot of us can relate to. If you've ever been in a breakup, if you've ever been in a divorce, if you've ever had a relationship that didn't work out, or you had a falling out with a family member, it can be tough. There's a lot of conditioning, a lot of patterning, okay? So for her, she grew up in a very devout family, so she'd been only this one and only marriage, and she was so embarrassed. And while this was happening, her now ex-husband was taking all the money out of the business and siphoning up. So she didn't even realize that as her relationship was falling apart, her business that she'd worked so hard for more than 2 decades, she was in debt. And I don't mean a little bit of debt, like I mean over $100,000 in debt. Okay. So we started working together, and this repatterning is a lot of the stuff that we did. I have all the tactics and all the strategies you need, but I want to tell you this is why I put this stuff first. If we don't work on this stuff, you won't get there. And the piece that I find is the deeper the wounds, the more you're attached to them. We kind of love the devil we know, right? We know that we feels comfortable to us. We watch people do things that are not just that are kind of dysfunctional. We do dysfunctional things ourselves because we know it. And it takes courage to go out on a limb and do something different. But Kathy had to do some repatterning. She had to do some forgiving. She had to do some changing, and she needed to get into a different community. And she needed help. Right? She needed help cleaning up the tactics along with working on the mental. Everybody with me? Within a 1 year of working together, she paid off $100,000 in debt, and she purchased her first income producing commercial real estate, which is pretty cool. So it's one of the things I'll tell you, we go through our progression plan and we talk about like where people are. If you don't have your foundations in place, you're not going to be successful when you want to scale. So we have a business school to help you with foundations. A lot of our legacy leaders, people that have been in business for a long time, they often need to just go back and tune up something in their foundations. It doesn't take a long time because they've done the bigger, deeper work, right? This brain work. All right. Here's the next thing. Next thing is this is I think the last mindset one, but I want to tell you this. Money loves clarity. Your money wants you to tell it what you want. And it wants you to give it a number, and it wants you to give it a why. So remember, I talked about the vision you have for having a business that not only takes care of you, but takes care of the people you love and makes an impact and a difference in the community. That makes you a little different. Doesn't mean there aren't thousands of us out there. It just makes us a little different. Thousands of us in a community of 8 billion humans is not a lot of people, right? And where you're going to get your traction is when you get clear on your numbers. And this takes time and it takes practice and it takes discipline, but it doesn't have to be hard. And once you get the systems, you get it in place. Those of you in business school, you're going to love it because today's finance day, we're going to be all over, all over numbers today, right? So this is a quick thing, a quick fix to give you just for a place for you to check in on your own business if you're not working with us currently. We believe that every business in every industry has a progression plan. And when I talk about being in a community of like-minded entrepreneurs, you get to stay on track because you're around other people cheering you on. There's so much to that. But when you go isolated, when you go into poor me and only I can do it and woe is me and nobody understands my business, guess what happens? You get more woe is me. Anybody done that besides me? Yeah. Anybody like a little hooked on being a martyr? I always say this, not to offend everybody. I'm a Christian. You don't need to be a martyr. Jesus already came. Okay? You're not helping anybody. You want to get really clear about your business as a leader. And that's why the first pillar of our 7 pillars of business is leadership. I'm talking to you about mindset. Mindset and leadership are kind of different ways. So in smaller entrepreneurial circles, we tend to use the language of mindset, right? Especially because we're a little woo in our world. We're very spiritually connected. And in corporations, they talk about leadership. So they spend lots and lots of money every year developing leadership qualities because in order for their management to be strong, in order for their company to grow, those things constantly have to be growing. With me, I think everybody on this call is the founder of your own business. You have to keep growing. If you're not growing, you're contracting. If you want to disagree with me about that, let's just test it. Okay. Now, between pillar 1 and pillar 2 is the work that I do with people privately all day long. And it is the most important work for a mission focused founder. If you have a calling on your life and you know you're here to make a difference with your work, you've got to understand that between leadership and marketing are a few things. Your business model, a clean, congruent business model that you can get out and get proof of concept, right? The next thing that has to happen is the vision for the business. Why is this business in business? Not why are you in business? That's a different conversation. I've sold 6 of my companies. You can't sell a company until it's owner independent. So the place between leadership and marketing, I think, is one of the biggest places entrepreneurs get stuck. And I don't hear people talking about this. I don't hear people talking about culture and core values and vision and mission for small business and for what I would consider us micro business. But you know what? If it works for Whole Foods, there might be something to it, right? Conscious capitalism. So the space that I do often is really one of my superpowers is, and I'm not trying to make it about me, but I'm gonna tell you it's one of the things we're always honing. Leanne and I are constantly honing this conversation around mastering your message, messaging with a mission. What's the formula that I'm using again and again and again with my clients? Our top level client right now is at about $10 million in annual revenue. She's not coming to group calls, she's running a company. She's got a bunch of employees. So this space of like when I'm in the one-on-one, this is the part, where I'm just telling you, in order to have effective marketing, we've got to translate from your vision and your leadership and put it into a mission statement where it makes sense. Guess what is at the heart of the mission statement of Limitless Women? Anybody know? You feel free to put in the chat if you know. Leanne should know. The heart of that is healing the poverty consciousness of women business leaders so that they can join us in healing actual poverty. And this is where I said it may feel real that you're struggling, but it may not be true. And what if you could get that handled? Can you imagine a world where women who have handled this piece around congruency and integrity and flow and sustainable, consistent revenue now get to have the opportunity to not only contribute from our overflow, but also to mentor the next generation of leaders? Because I promise you, ladies, every one of you who's been around for a while, who's doing okay, had some woman see you when you could not see yourself. That's literally why we created Limitless Women. Okay. And it took us years to grow here. I'm not a typical overnight sensation, but I can tell you that to date, we've raised over $750,000 for charity. And that blows my mind. And we did not have a big check from the Gates Foundation. We had Janet Grovers making a $10 donation. We had, Angela writing a $100 check. We had everybody doing, Leanne doing her part, me doing my part, Andrea doing her part, Elena doing her part, everybody doing a little bit. Collectively, we've raised $750,000 and we're not stopping. Right? So here's the deal that I'm gonna say to you. This place, we are so excited about the sales process, the finance process, the operations, the team, and hopefully legacy as an impact business. But if you don't get this stuff cleaned up right here between leadership and marketing, your marketing won't work. And I'm telling you that because we're gonna move into marketing next. Down, ready for it? Yep. Okay. So I told you a little bit about who we are, since some of my sweet friends, uh, yeah, Kate Payne and Donna McPherson, and who are in our legacy program. And like all of us that have been growing, we've been growing together. So let's move into the more tactical stuff around marketing. Here's the piece where the mindset meets the marketing. Okay. And that is that you have to take action. And when you want to increase your revenue, here's the big secret that nobody wants me to tell you this in a simplistic form, but I give you my word, it is proven again and again and again. If you want to make more money, you've got to serve more people. Now, how are you going to serve more people if they don't know who you are or where you are? How are you going to serve more people if your messaging is not clear? If your messaging is not clear and is not becoming magnetic to the people that you want to have in your posse, talk to me or talk to somebody else, but talk to somebody you trust. And I'm going to tell you, Dr. Nadia, as you're shaking your head, here's one of the things I've learned, and I'm almost 60 years old. I don't want relationship advice from somebody who doesn't have a relationship, right? I don't want money advice from somebody who's broke. There I said, you're not broke. I'm not broke. And there it is, right? I don't want money advice from somebody who doesn't have money, right? I want money advice from somebody who's living an example of fluid abundance, who can be free and in service and in present. And it's interesting because I find often sometimes the most successful people in business are actually the easiest to get in touch with, you know, because they've got their stuff handled. They've got strong, unapologetic boundaries, right? So your job, my love, is to get into action with the right actions. And that's what will change you having money when you're in service. The more people you serve, the more cash flow you got. And if anybody's been around long enough, like I have, you might remember when McDonald's used to have the little numbers on the front. I don't know, it was like 100 million sold, how many billions. Now I think it just says billions and billions or something crazy when you go buy McDonald's, right? I haven't been to McDonald's in a while, but that's what it is. It's how many people can you serve? Now, we have a whole other conversation for another day. If you're interested, when I'm talking to you about my clients during legacy season of life, you got to be in the emerging, growing phase first. just like all of us. You got to build it up. And when I said in an email this week, I think sometime this week, I said, listen, I came back after 2 years of being on a medical sabbatical. That was really an interesting choice. My husband retired. I decided I do real estate investing. I mean, I don't need to work, just like a lot of you. I don't have to, but I love my work. I am deeply honored and humbled with the opportunity to pay forward what other women paid to me. That vision, that gets me in action. That's what has me wake up at like 4 a.m. like, oh, wow, today's the day, right? I want you to have that. And then you take the action step, and that's actually what it is. So what this means for your marketing is, what marketing are you doing daily? And whatever you're doing, you probably want to do about 3 times as much. And the things that I love that we teach is organic marketing, is speaking, podcast, writing, even if you don't feel really comfortable writing, even if it's not perfect, just like this webinar, maybe it's not, the slides aren't just right. This is certainly not my superpower, creating slides, but I'll tell you, I did it for you because I thought, let me keep myself organized and not just tell stories. I'm a big storyteller. So I wanted to keep it organized for you, and I'll do better Saturday and I'll do better the next time. You just keep doing better, right? You just keep showing up. Right. But the actions of getting yourself out and serving, and those who need what you have will raise their hand and show up. And then you get to move into sales with ease, which is a whole nother game that I want to teach you if you're interested, because we believe that sales is just a natural evolution when the other things are handled right, right? When you got your head straight, when you got all this. Now, the other piece about marketing that I want you to know that's so important, and this is so important for business, and this is where we get stuck all the time in between pillar number one and pillar number two, is that narrow and deep wins. I have no idea where I have a picture of a snowflake here, but maybe because it's one of a kind. That's what it was. I was like, what was I thinking? One of a kind. Every snowflake is like every one of us, one of a kind, right? So narrow and deep is where it is. Instead of, I have a business that does all things for all people, it took me a long time to have the courage to change this business to women only. And we still have a few great men that show up now and again, and we love them. We're happy to see them. But I got to tell you, we are women supporting women. And the more narrow you can go, and the deeper you go with giving, I'm going to tell you, give your best stuff. Give your very best stuff. Please don't hold back and think that somebody says, okay, we'll give them a hook, but don't actually give them the real thing. Don't do that, my loves. Give everything you've got, because you cannot outgive God. And the more you give, the more you get filled up. Right? That's the yumminess in our world. I got goosebumps. Thank you. All right. Repetition means mastery. Remember, I was talking about Ashley's little cousin or her niece, right? Steps, steps, steps. Let's keep doing it. Again, that baby's not apologizing. Said, oh, wait, I fell down. Let me stop working. I'm going to just not be a walker. I'm going to be a sitter. Now, listen, my friends, I'm making a little bit of a joke, but some of you on this call, because I know you very well, you do that. You stumble, you stop, you say, okay, I can't. Guess what? You can. You really can. I give you my word. One of the ways you can is to allow yourself to be supported. We are women. This is not meant to offend anybody, but we have a vagina for a reason. We are creation machines. The act of creation happens in the coupling with another being, right? Think about the miracle of life being created inside the human body. It's really amazing. We have to allow ourselves to be supported, and we have to repeat the right processes, the right marketing, the right thoughts, the right behaviors. Those will lead us to master those things. Many of us, because we grew up in families with a lot of pain, mastered, no matter how hard I work, I'm not going to get there. We mastered it. Boy, did we run that in our head again and again and again. Anybody in here has been in a domestic violence situation like I was as a young woman. I went to go see my stepfather one time, and I had bruises all over my face. He said, "What'd you do to make John hit you?" Clearly, it was my fault. I deserved that, right? Clearly, I did something to deserve. It was that, don't cry unless you want me to give you something to cry about. You guys have heard a lot of this stuff in your own families. I'm not trying to make it uncomfortable for you, but what I am trying to say to you is, you have your own special recovery program that you've gone through, because I know I lead leaders, and I know I'm a healer of healers, and I know that you're here for a reason. And there is a planet full of people in pain, and it's not going to get easier for them, because it's very noisy and they haven't learned how to have healthy boundaries and to protect themselves. We want to keep you in this sweet incubator of love so that you actually repeat the behaviors that are empowering, lining you up closer to God, closer to your purpose, closer to your contribution to the world. That requires discipline. So, what behaviors are you repeating? When it comes to your marketing, do you have the discipline to keep going? I said, Leanne, I'm going to write that email. Like, you're the one. I've been writing way more emails than I ever did. We used to send them out once a month. And then we did it once every couple of weeks. Then we started Free Gift Friday 8 years ago. And I let myself off the hook because I'm like, yeah, once a week. Here's the deal. You've got a community. We have thousands of people. I'm like many of you. I'm like, oh, I don't want to offend people. I don't want to send too many emails. Right? If you don't want my email, you opt out. But if you want my email and I could send you a message of love, wouldn't that be a generous thing to do? How are you loving your audience? How are you loving your followers? How are you caring for them? Even when you're not ready, right? Even me with like my techie thing, even when you're not ready, you still show up. All right, here's the seventh piece that I want you to know. And it doesn't, and I'm going to tell you this is a very, very transparent conversation. I am not the only solution, but there's some reason you came here today. There was something in my marketing and in Limitless Women's promise of a community of leaders who are here to change the world that speaks to your heart. So we've got all kinds of programs. We've got tons of free stuff. Listen, after 8 years of Free Gift Fridays, I probably have what you need somewhere in a video or a podcast. Just call me, ask me. Okay. I got all kinds of free stuff. And here's what happens when we do free. A little bit of human nature. We don't value it. We value the things we invest in. We invest our time and we invest our dollars. And here's a big trick to being more abundant if you're down for it. It is in the stretch that you become expanded. The more willing you are to stretch, even when you've been hurt in the past, the more willing you are to take the step, even though you may fall down, just like Ashley's niece, the stronger you become. But you don't want to do it alone. You don't. It's hard and it takes a long time. And you could get there, but it might be too late. There could be people who really are hurt because you didn't take the actions to ask for help with me. Okay. So a couple of things about mentoring from my own experience. If I can figure out how to make this sweet button go. Here we go. What do I got here? Oh, maybe not. Maybe that's it. Oh, here we go. Okay, mentors have gone before you. I'm always looking for somebody who's done what I want to do, and I'm not trying to hire them to do what they don't do. And usually the mentors will help you with not only accountability, but also their systems. So I'll tell you, a lot of our legacy leaders and also some people in business school have been shared this with me. One of the great value is that they sped up their success because they didn't have to go and create a system. They could use one of our systems. I'm really excited to have you use what we've generated. And we've got some great systems. We aren't perfect systems, but we've got great systems. If we've got something that you can utilize and you're in our community, it's our pleasure to share that with you. And if you look inside our Facebook group, limitlesswomen.group, up at the top, there's a bunch of documents, there's trainings, there's things there. Again, there's a lot of stuff here for you. Nothing will surpass having a one-on-one conversation with me. And it's not about me. It's all about you. It's about you asking for what you need help with. All right. So when we work with someone who's farther along with the journey, they support us with shifting our beliefs and our behaviors. Right. This is one of my favorite things that sits on my desk. Watch it. I don't know if you can see me. If you can, there it is. I still can't see myself. It was really hard for Leo, by the way. We all know what we know, right? This whole idea of watch your thoughts, they become your words. Watch your words, they become your actions. Watch your actions, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. In our world, we say it becomes your legacy. What I want to say to you is what's behind this and why I did this class for you today is that your beliefs are driving your thoughts. So you have to start shifting your beliefs. And the only way I know to do that is to really love you through letting go what no longer works. And that's what this is. It's work in you shifting and investing in yourself, And I've already told you I've invested over $200,000. That was over the course of 12 years. It wasn't 200,000 with one person. It was 5,000 first, and I had to put 2,500 on one credit card, 2,500 on the other credit card, then I had to make it back, right? And then it was a $10,000 program where I made payments of $800 a month. I mean, for those of you that have been there, you understand what it is. What we look for in our relationship with legacy leaders is a lifetime relationship. I am very, very picky about who I partner with, because if you are so connected um, to your pain and you want to stay there, I want to love you and I want to encourage you to go to therapy and try to get some help. But I don't want you to come into our community of legacy leaders if you're not really ready to fly with us. I mean, it's a different game. Right? So if I can be of support to you and you're not currently active in a program, this is another quick story about Jen, who's a financial auditor, and she was diagnosed with leukemia, actually, during the time that we were working together. She had been in business for years, felt like nobody could help her. We began hiring auditors to support her business. She baby steps. She's been with me for a lot of years now at this point. But when she was diagnosed with leukemia, she stopped working. She's okay right now. That's why I can tell the story, right? But her business grew by 25% when she wasn't working. And I think that's the thing you guys have to get in your perspective here, is that the work that you think you're doing for work is not working. If it's not bringing in money, it's not bringing in clients, you need to shift something, right? And you usually need somebody from the outside to see what that is to help you. So what will your legacy be? If I can help you in any way, schedule a call with me. And that's the link again. Schedule my call today.
Are you a limitless woman? This is your personal invitation to learn how you can join our online community, grow through our business school, and play with us at our live events. Go to limitlesswomen.com for all the details. That's limitlesswomen.com. Thanks for joining us.